This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
Well, we were on time and the audio was perfect last night for the December 2nd gathering of the Committee of the Whole. City manager last night had a great announcement. This one warmed my heart. ProKids, as you may know, is an amazing organization operated by the City of Thunder Bay and provides low-income families access to all kinds of activities and sports for kids who otherwise can't afford it. Well, big news, through a bunch of generous donations over the last year from individuals, organizations, and companies, the city manager announced last night that the city is in a position to accept more kids to the program. There's a surplus of space for more kids to get involved. Just search ProKids Thunder Bay. It'll take you directly to the city's website where you can learn more about the program and apply to have your kids participate. It is fantastic. It's a great program that really makes a difference. And again, thanks to everybody who has given their support, and whether it be through golf tournaments or otherwise, it's a big deal. And the city making it happen with more spaces for kids.
It's a fun golf tournament.
And it raises lots of money.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really yeah,
so
really
hats off to the city and all of the people that work on ProKids. I know it's a big operation, and there are some fantastic programs for these kids. Everybody gets to play, and it's awesome. On to city business. The first presentation last night, timely, I would say, was from the city administration about the City of Thunder Bay's winter control standards. It's almost like they timed it. They're a busy bunch. Did you know that there's over 2,000 kilometers of roads, 500 kilometers of sidewalks, and 60 kilometers of trails? Yep. It has to be cleared. It's done with the hard work of 60 staff, 24 graders, 11 sanders, and 16 sidewalk plows.
Love it.
I didn't know we had 16 sidewalk plows. I always see the old rusted one. But there's one fancy new one that's kind of red. I like it.
Great.
When there is a winter event like one we're about to see, it costs about $65,000 a day to clear the snow. They hit the roads and priority routes when there's over 5 centimeters of snow, and residential streets start when there's 10 centimeters or over. It takes about 72 hours to complete the residential streets. Sidewalks, when there's 5 centimeters, they're out there 3 a.m. And here's a fun fact. If you want to learn more about the city's plan, I had no idea this existed, and now I do, and so do you. You can see live updates during snow events. All you have to do is go to thunderbay.ca/snow to see all of the details.
I like that.
I was thinking that you might.
Wow. And I appreciate those stats on the amount of, the roads and sidewalks and how many graders we have. See, those are 65,000 a day. See, I didn't know that. You learn something new every day.
If there's a manager from the snow division of the city that's listening right now, if you're looking for a grader operator,
you want to help so bad.
If you, anytime, sidewalk plow.
Yeah.
There's even, did you know that there's a crew that has shovels that does sidewalks and bridges and the pedestrian walks?
Did not know that.
Absolutely. Listen, if you're looking for an operator of heavy equipment, I am available. And I would have my office packed before the end of our phone call. So all you have to do is just call the station.
All right. Sounds good.
I just want to run a grader.
I know.
I just... Yeah. Next up, look what's back. The Waverly Park Fountain. Administration was asked back on June 17th, you may remember, to report back with a plan to fix the fountain and bring it back to working order without the 7-foot fences around it. The Coalition for Waverly Park started with a quick deputation last night talking about the restoration of the 235-year-old fountain donated to the city in 1964. The Coalition applied for funding and some help from NOHFC. They're happy to listen to giving some funding, but they need the city to sign off on the partnership with the Coalition to cover any overages from the restoration. Now, the Coalition has about $50,000 in place from the CEDC. Early estimates for the project come in at around $1.2 million, of which, if successful, NOHFC would cover half the bill. So the Coalition was present last night to ask council to approve the city's administration direction, their direction for the fountain. Now, just to recap, Waverly Park is the second oldest park in Ontario. The fountain, one of its focal points, has not been operational for over 6 years, and we've talked about it on this program many times. It has been completely neglected. So administration came back with a report that has a 2-year budget plan that includes $100,000 already in next year's capital budget toward the hiring of a consultant team to figure out exactly the costs and needs for the fountain, and then a design scope. The design build plans will happen sometime in 2026. The plan was approved unanimously by council. Way to go, council. If only you did it 6 years ago. We'll know more in the next year or so about the total cost of the project, and hats off to the Coalition for Waverly Park. They've put in a lot of work into this, and they have a ton of determination to see that fountain returned to the condition it deserves after so many years of neglect.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
I love to hear that. Let's get things moving on it. But you're right, though. Sitting there 6 years, not even being talked about.
Yeah, not
all
even
of a sudden,
touched. Yeah. But that goes alongside all that infrastructure gap and all of these things that we need, and the city needs a plan for that, by the way, by next year.
All right.
The next thing is a big one. We talked about this a couple of months ago. The city's application to the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. It doesn't matter what the name of the fund is, but the fund supports the development of areas located north and south of Central Avenue between Golf Links and Balmoral. It's a huge area that doesn't have access to water mains and storm drains. The new project includes extending sanitary sewers along Central Avenue and installing new water mains and adding new storm sewers. The project will enhance the water system, promote growth in that area, and enable the development of new housing units in Thunder Bay. How many?
Wow.
1,260 units. The province will contribute 73% of the eligible costs, up to $10 million. The city will be responsible for the rest. When complete, the new project will give the opportunity for 1,260 new units for build between Golf Links and Balmoral. There is a huge ton of land in there, and I could see you thinking about where that is right now.
I'm envisioning, but you're talking almost like an entire,
it's
new
almost
subdivision.
A subdivision. Yeah. It's some great news on the funding for that underdeveloped area, and even better news, the new builds, of course, will go towards our housing stats. So that's a good thing. Also on the agenda last night, the red light camera discussion. You may remember this fiasco from a couple of months back. Back and forth it went, and it was a great idea, and it's a terrible idea. But then how are we going to collect the money? And then who's going to collect the money? And how much is it going to cost? Well, it was going to cost a lot. So council at that time scrapped the idea, sent it back to administration. Administration has a report. It was set to be done last night, but they're asking for a little bit of a delay. They went before council last night to make their move to report back to council the first quarter of 2025. The council approved that, so we'll wait to hear what the recommendations are in the new year. And next, nothing. That was it. The meeting was adjourned at 7:38, 63 whole minutes later.
Wow.
It was not 7 hours.
It was not, and lots of time to get in some Monday Night Football there.
It did help, and below deck. Also, just want to give you the heads up that next week things get interesting. The new parking plan comes before council. This is the hottest topic in town. Yeah. But first, they need to go through the process of what's called a notice of motion. That's where 2/3 of council can rescind a bylaw. In this case, the new parking bylaw and parking structure for the downtown cores. The one they debated for 2 years and they voted on three times and they all approved. Yeah, that's right. Next week's discussion will start the process of reversing their vote and suggesting new plans for parking times, including reducing the times back to 9 a.m. to 6 or 7. And it should make for some interesting discussion, which I would kind of wonder if the councils are actually going to admit that they made a mistake in approving this in the first place. This will make a lot of the downtown cores very happy and people shopping downtown very happy. However, should we not have done this first? It was a plan that was executed and approved by council that failed because of the public backlash. Brian Hamilton spearheaded this discussion with all of his councillors and got together and made sure there was enough for a 2/3 vote. So look for that bylaw to be rescinded next week and a new one in place.
I wonder if we're going to hear some deputations next week from businesses in the area.
No need to.
That might be because they're going to make this
already
change.
Made. Yeah,
so there we go.
It looks like this is just a formality. From what I've heard in the discussions that are going on in the back room, all the councillors agree that this needs to happen. And so they're changing their mind and rescinding a bylaw, which is not an easy thing to do. It's a pile of work, I'm sure, for the clerk. However, this is what they want. This is what the city wanted, and they listened. So good on them.
I'm wondering if this happens in other cities. We're not privy to that.
Changing mind?
Yeah.
No. You know what else that doesn't happen in other cities? Free parking.
Okay, well,
so I get it. I get hate mail all the time about this because I am a supporter of paying for parking, and I am also a supporter of paying for parking at the marina. I'm sorry if you hate me for that. However, again, in the last week, there has been a ton of discussion online by all of these experts who say that the marina is empty and on. So wasn't it you that told me last week that there was a post about how empty the marina was?
Yes, there was
last
a video
week?
Circulating about it.
It's November. It's freezing cold. It's breaking news. It's also empty in January. The only reason there are no cars parked at the marina like there was the year before is because the people that parked at the marina last year were there for the free parking when they worked downtown. Now they have to pay.
Yeah.
And so they're paying for parking outside of their door instead of making the 10-minute walk from the marina. So we'll see what happens, but the reduced hours means that that's reduced revenue. And the whole idea was that parking needs to be self-sufficient. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting meeting next week.
All right, there you have it. December 3rd, a City Council Roundup. And as always, you can text the word council to our T-Baytel talk and text line 807-344-8229, and that will give you a direct link to today's roundup. Or you can go online to our website, 999thebay.ca. John, meeting next week, and I think there's one more after that. And then it's a break, isn't there?
There's still 2 in December?
I thought there was one on the 16th as well. I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Just when you thought it was safe.
Okay, because, that's time for a little bit of a holiday break, right?
But it's Christmas, so they'll all probably not get along.
Thank you, John.